Well, hello, creatives, community, kind folks out there. This is RPG with DBJ, and welcome also classmates and collegiates over at Fantasy Grounds College. If you join the Fantasy Grounds College Discord, just go over to the left, slide down in the boiler room. You can join our chat and also get this live audio along with our streaming YouTube. And for those, I'm hearing myself in my ear. Apologize. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. I was hearing myself in my own ear, and that's not actually preferable at this period of time. All right, so for those who want to participate, you may, of course, use the YouTube chat or the Discord chat as you may want to. Also, as an update for this channel, over the past year, we've been going live Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. I guess EST, EDT, whatever you want, UTC time -4. Well, those episodes are now being uploaded onto SoundCloud. This show now is a podcast as well. And give it about 6 months to a year, and we may catch up to placing each show up on the podcast stream. But for right now, you can go back in the past, listen to these episodes an hour a day each day, and enjoy that as well. So this week we are talking about reskinning, a tabletop tool that I often bring up and we talk about, but we really don't break it down into like how we do it. Is it necessary for us to do it? And when done, what hazards are involved? What kind of problems it may cause as well, and ways for us to avoid it. And also kind of a way of talking about how the sausage is made behind the scenes of our favorite tabletop RPG games. Oh man. Hello everyone in the chat. Prue's been a long time. Hello there, Pelora, Rickard, everyone, all of the regulars here. I really appreciate it. All right, so let's get into reskinning. Now, if you take a look, yeah, it has been a while. If you take a look at the thumbnail, I kind of talk about it's like reskinning, reusing, repurposing, renaming, and that kind of thing. So, of course, we're going to talk about this all week. And with today being Monster Monday, it's a perfect time for us to talk about one of the most basic methods of reskinning something. And oh man, that's Origins. Yeah, Infinite Role Places. Yeah, where everybody knows your name. Doo, doo. Yeah, yeah, that's an oldie but goodie show for us older folks. Cheers, everyone. So the idea here is for Monster Monday is talking about the monstrous origins, the fantastical individuals, even not so fantastical, maybe some NPCs, and how by just reskinning the origins of our nasties. Yeah, love the theme of the week, DBJ. Yeah, I love it too. By not just talking about the part that gets us really excited, or new beasts and new monsters and new capabilities, and of course we got players and their new player choices and such. But a lot of times I think the easiest way for us to bring something new into the game, if you've thrown enough trolls and enough dragons and enough orcs or something at your players, to think about new origins. And sometimes just changing the origin of a nasty old beastie or something, or maybe some of your humanoids or goblinoids, can really set off how they interact with the world and the players, and then create something new. So when it comes to origins, we have a lot of choices in front of us. For example, we have our the the tried and true, born and raised, right? Creatures born, whatever pseudo biological methods that the creature is born. Um, oh man, how a creature's born and raised. It's our classic problem with the orc babies and pregnant orc women, right? Well, they're evil. They're born evil. If we leave them alive, they're going to be evil, right? but but maybe we could change that up a little bit. So, for example, what if a creature is, instead of their origins being by birth, by nature, maybe they're cursed to become this way. The classic werewolf, right? The werewolf trope. Someone does some, and I don't mean I don't mean our modern day interpretation of vampires bit on the neck, but the original, vampire, the 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 person who throws their fists up at God and is punished for it. It is the going into Rickard says, now you're messing with dangerous stuff alignment. That way lies madness. Of course it does. Oh man, heck, if I we'd start some flame wars. If we did a whole week of alignment, that'd be silly. But and asking for trouble. But the idea of imagine if your nasties, like your trolls, your orcs, I don't know, giants, I don't know, sphinxes or whatever have you, were created by a curse. Maybe individuals went to a place that they were not supposed to. Um, maybe there's the idea of um, Scott Poe says my favorite kobolds, make them little anthropomorphic watership down rabbits, burrowing, trap making, safety in numbers, all make much more sense than does for dragonlings. Yeah. the Funny about the origins of the kobold, because for a short brief time they were dog-like, and then they became more scaled, for those of us that have been in the game since its inception. So yeah, that was a little bit of that's a little bit of a throwback. Yeah. um Infinite Roleplay says, origin of orcs, an individual that suffered great confidence issues and physically abused all those that were weaker, would slowly transform in time, succumbing to a transformative magical sickness. That is a thing in folklore, in which the idea that the further you succumb to your base desires, you start to have a physical transformation. Sometimes that's even combined with like the old hag that is abused in the city or cast out or something, and the old hag, or even someone who, the warriors from a distant land take over a small village or something, and there's the oracle in the town or the soothsayer or what not, and then they curse them and their families, and slowly and surely they start to transform by their behaviors, in which case, yeah, Pelora says monster within, monster without. Yeah, exactly. And Rickard says, posting an image in the DBJ Discord that seems relevant to reskinning monsters. Has a DM in another Discord asking for a suggestion on making an Aztec themed were jaguar. So I took a shot at it. Oh man. Yeah, and Prue says, started in AD&D, but I still prefer the new lizard-like kobolds. Yeah, they um you know, um you can't really, you can't fight progression, right? But the idea of what ends up happening is, if you take your average orc and they're either cursed or they come about through their own behaviors, now you have a societal relationship with these monstrous goblinoids that live out in the wild or something, because they may have some relationship to the people that live inside. So, for example, orcs in the world, or half orcs in the world, may not be another race entirely, but they may be the victims of their own evil tendencies. In which case, uh, humans, or maybe some of the other humanoids in the world, could easily give birth, you know, to an orc, simply by the fact that when they come of age, they may then transform into one, even though they may have been human or elven or, I don't know, halfling or something of that nature. And you could even spread that out, that each of your traditional races, human, dwarf, elf, halfling, gnome, may become a different goblinoid because of their actions and this ancient curse that seems to have um, swept across the land, or some kind of legacy curse or blood curse, or a curse that was placed upon a family line that has spread out since then. Um, yeah, yeah, Rickard says basically just took a werewolf, were-tiger, and were-boar from the monster manual and took a few abilities and actions from each of them, made some slight changes to get the Aztec flavor. Yeah, yeah. And again, we're going to get into, because I you guys are always going to be well ahead of me, but we're going to get into that very much so, in terms of changing abilities, changing the flavor, and that kind of thing. So today we're going to focus on the origins, right? Another possible origin uh, for some of your NPCs and monsters and things are scientific, whether it's alchemical, whether you can flow into a little bit of arcane, but maybe someone or somewhere is making these people, or turning these creatures into what they are. The chimera may literally be hacked off pieces of a goat and a serpent and a lion or a ram or whatever other creatures are on there, and turned into what it is. Maybe there's an alchemist with vats of boiling fluids that they're dropping victims into. And it's also possible that instead of it being done against people, oh wow, yep. Pelorio mentions the Vaigish from Within the Ring of Fire are hobgoblins. It's buried in the lore deep down. Goblins are a cursed race of owl people when their god died and crashed into the area where they lived. Exactly. And sometimes when we think about the origins, I mean, sure, it's a little bit of a flavor thing. Like, oh yeah, back in the day, long time ago in a place far, far away. But having part of that be part of the origin could affect how society treats them. For example, the idea that there's let's say, a paladins or a knight's order that wants to slay the orcs. The people might not want that, because maybe there's a chance their loved ones can come back to them. Maybe there's a chance that there's a cure, or a way to disperse a curse or cure an affliction, or even one of these murderous orcs comes into town and is wearing something like maybe a locket or a piece of clothing, and maybe the original family remembers them, and it's kind of like soothing the savage beast kind of thing, like, come back to us or whatnot. Maybe that orc decides not to kill them, or maybe that bestial orc is overcome with their inner rage and does kill that family. You know what I mean? And that could be a very good origin for a PC who is playing, say, a half orc who might be filled with guilt that maybe they did kill their their birth family, because of their inner rage, and they're trying not to embrace it any longer. And then you have yourself like an orc paladin or whatnot, or maybe they are embracing the evil or whatnot, and they've become a barbarian or whatnot. And so origins can change how we relate to the things that are around us. Going back to the scientific method, the purposeful method of creating these things, there could be, along with people being captured and transformed into monstrous beasts, there may be a sect of people who are selling alchemicals, concoctions, or elixirs to because people want to purposefully turn into these things, whether it's because the countryside is being ravaged and these people feel like martyring themselves to become something, knowing that there's a chance that they'll lose themselves if they take these concoctions more and more. Maybe it's a one and done. If they drink something, that they will transform permanently, but this will save their family or leave their family alone, or they are volunteering for this to defend their world. So yeah, it's a possibility. Um, Rickard says, change up which gods created them that they are tied to. What would a goblin be if they had been taken in by Lolth instead of the Drow elves? And he also goes on to say a wizard did it. What if Drow elves were created as a means of containing void energy from seeping out into the world, maybe as a way to protect it? Exactly. So we have our Dungeons and Dragons does have a bit of lore to it. It's not exactly vanilla and generalized. I mean, there are gods that um, Prue says, I want Lythander orcs now. Yeah, and the idea from a lot of the races is that some of the gods have created them. Some of the gods were sliced because of a battle and their blood became the new race. Others created them through carving them out of stone. Others were created on purpose to, and we often don't really go back to those origins. But for example, like the Drow elves being cast out by Corlon, I don't remember the last name. Corlon Leanderthal? I don't remember. It could change how they are perceived in the rest of the world. Like you're saying, Rickard, like what if if wizards did it and use them to, prevent the spread of necrotic or, some kind of energy or void energy that was really going to destroy the world. And so maybe the Drow elves, Lorethian or Corlon Lorethian. That's it. Lorethian. You know us. You know me. I like to butcher pronunciations. But anyway, it could be that the Drow may see themselves as protectors and a necessary evil, especially for those who are deep into arcane lore. They may understand that the Drow are needed. The Drow are needed to keep these energies in check, and maybe that's what's corrupting them. Yeah, if the role play says the Elith is first created from a soup of arcane, chemical waste, the byproducts of countless failed experiments. Often that has been used as the default origin for like things like oozes and some of the more mutated creatures. Something, an alchemical experiment by a wizard that like an owlbear. The owlbears, I think, were related to that, especially when WotC really doesn't have a reason for origin of a creature. They're like, well, it was a wizard's experiment and it just got loose and began to breed true, right? But that is a possibility. Dead Man says in the Elder Scrolls games, the orcs are a mare, an elven race. Having a Fey origin is a possibility too. I think ogres in within the Ring of Fire, ogres have a Fey origin alongside the other Fey races, although they are not vulnerable to cold iron like the others are. So having a Fey origin, or there's also the possibility of Infinite Roleplay says, yep, so are the Dwarves. There's also the idea of an evolutionary change. So are the dwarves. Yeah. Talking about a Fey race. Well, and again, could all the races be related to one origin? Are they from different origins? And how do they perceive themselves? For example, if dwarves were were physically created from stone by their deity, they may think of themselves as, being proud and on this world purposefully, whereas say an accidental race like the elves in Dungeons and Dragons might be perceived as being um, outsiders, forgotten. They weren't created on purpose by the hand of their deity. They were just created as a side effect of, of a battle or something between the gods. And so their social perception of each other could change, and therefore that change could be something in the game, how they relate to each other. So, you know, going towards even other origins, like we talking about curses and such, it's possible that not only are there people that could be cursed with being the way they are, but maybe there is a cure for those curses, based on whether someone can find a particular, again, finding a particular maybe herbs out in the woods or an elixir, or beseech the old hag out in the swamp to cure them either temporarily or permanently of their afflictions and such. Yeah, Rickard. Oh, sorry about that. Rickard goes on to say, there we go. Goes on to say, not of this world. What if your gnomes are actually earth elemental, native to the elemental planes and not to the material one? What would that do to their culture? Especially in Scott Post's gotta shout out Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, which I have I have a review of that on the channel. I have that in my back room. Anyway, how about an area weirded by a crashed starship and radioactive cargo? All the local creatures or villagers can become dire, fey, far realm touched, etc. Maybe from the radiation from the crashed spaceship. Yeah, the idea that something is not of this world. We of course, like to think of the elder gods and the illithids, the Cthulhu creatures, as being from some far off realm, not quite another dimension, almost like they lived on other worlds, and you can imagine them being in spacecraft or traveling through like wormholes or something to get here. No reason to make them the only ones. Maybe there are other races or other creatures in your world with origins that are from that. Even in the Inner Sea guide for Galorian, the Pathfinder game, there's a region where something, some kind of starfall event happened, and a spacecraft, or maybe multiple spacecraft, crashed into this medieval world and spread around. And so you have people who have access to like technologies and mechanical beasts are out there, machines, clockwork devices that the people are unaware how they operate, but they just do. So, which is yet another origin, right? Something constructed. Now, of course, that may change some of their capabilities. We're going to get into changing the capabilities of creatures and monsters and races and things, but the Warforged is a perfect example of a race that doesn't breed but was created, and maybe there's a way for them to breed, but we don't know, and not sure of their origins. Although I do believe that there are crafters that can create more Warforged in the world, in the world of Eberron. But again, how they exist in your world, if you want to include something like Gearforged or Warforged creatures in your world, are is up to you. Are they? Rickard says Lost Origins, brings up Lost Origins, which related to, say, something that's artificial, could have been uncovered after being somewhere for a very long time. And you could apply that to the not of this world idea, right? Where something far away, far off lands on the planet and is in cold stasis or opens up a portal, and maybe these people have been trapped, or these creatures have been trapped for a long time, and then someone releases them into the world, and then therefore you have like this dichotomy of what we would consider our present day and something from the ancient past. or it could be something from the far future, what have you. Rickard says, Lost Origins. What if the orcs we know are actually a splinter group? The original orcs are out there, might be lawful good instead of the chaotic evil ones we know. We just never knew. And that there's the Scrow from the second edition AD&D, primarily Spelljammer. I don't remember if it's any Scrow, but again, the having Lost Origins is also a possibility where we've seen story elements where we meet a race, right? We meet some creatures or something, and we know of them as being bestial or evil. Because maybe of our lack of ability to understand them. District 9, the movie District 9 or Alien Nation comes to mind when, alien spacecraft comes, we see aliens, and then all of a sudden we have an interaction with them. But then we find out that there's something even bigger out there. Maybe like the xenomorphs from the Alien franchise, we find out that they were created by the engineers. And so you not only have some, I just make like the top of my head, like maybe there's displacer beasts have been out there. Maybe the blink dogs were set upon the world to hunt down the displacer beasts because they were an experiment that was released because of visitation from ancient aliens. And it's been thousands of years, and they're now back to see if the blink dogs have gotten rid of all those displacer beasts and not realize that they've just bred themselves out of control or something, Yeah. Poo says, or been exiled to an Australia far enough away that we don't have to deal with them ever again, to the detriment of the indigenous peoples. Right. The orcs could have been packed away in a box and shipped off somewhere, dropped on whatever setting you have, in the hopes that, okay, well, they'll just die off, or that place doesn't have any other life. We'll put the orcs there, not realizing that, or not caring that there are other people who live in this particular world. Rickard says, maybe a contingency of Crusader orcs arrive on the Prime Material to finally deal with their evil cousins, as they have finally found where they've been hiding. Ooh, that is another, actually, Rickard, there's another origin, which is like the Divergent race, meaning that there could either be people of the same race, they just have a different mindset, or there is like the idea of the pure race, and the divergent people from that pure race want to live, and so they are ready to there's enough of them to rebel against the social order that causes them to be eliminated. And so the race that is divergent in their maybe their genetic makeup, the way they look, the way they act, they escape, or they run, or they're exiled to a particular location, and then others try to come and destroy them. So, like you're mentioning, the chaotic evil orcs, maybe their culture comes about through victims of circumstance, right? They look at everyone else as their enemy because they've been treated so bad, and then the Crusader orcs come and they feel that they are righteous, except for this one thing: they want to kill off their more bestial members of their own race, which allows you to keep flipping the script, right? It's they're chaotic evil and we don't like them, but there's a reason why they're acting that way. And then there's oh wow, the Crusader orcs, they're so nice, except for their bloodthirstiness and trying to kill their own, and I think that's a great way to twist to have ourselves twist our norms in the way we think about them. There's plenty of other origins too. We have the origins of random mutation. Okay, maybe you have a world where maybe the majority race is human, but due to random mutation, maybe going back to the alien craft that landed due to radiation. It could be just the way magic flows in the world. I mean, it could be any number of reasons. Maybe it's due to celestial events, and on when children are born on particular celestial events, maybe the people don't want their child born when during a comet or an eclipse or the solstice or whatever have you, certain stars in the sky, or when the sun gets to a certain point, or when the three moons are above or whatever. Maybe certain children are born and they become other things, and people have been trying to hide their children because they've been born. Maybe there's a way to detect them due to birthmarks or something, eye color, hair color, skin tones, birthmarks, whatnot. Or yeah, yeah, Pelor brings up within the ring of fire, the Freyine. Yeah, exactly. Maybe they are the those who have been cast off and saved. Now there's also the using the same randomization, the born at high noon, like the Freyine are the closer to the highest point in the sky that the sun gets, the more pure the Freyine are. And the ones that are born, the lower in the sky the sun is, even the ones that are born where the sun hasn't come up, are kind of they're looked at as like the most impure, if I'm not mistaken. Um, yeah, that which is also a possibility. Rickard brings up you will be assimilated zombies. Ooh, that's another origin. What if trolls are not an actual race? If a creature's killed by a troll, they will turn into trolls. Uh, yeah, absolutely. Dirty humans. Yeah. That's a possibility too, where something is spread by disease. For example, that's the classic werewolf example, right? If you're not killed by a werewolf, you're infected by lycanthropy. Maybe there's these other creatures or races or something. If you're not killed by them, you become infected by them. And the infection, this assimilation doesn't necessarily need to be blood assimilation, although that's very common, right? To something they I don't know, they have some kind of fungus or ooze or poison or diseased in their skin, that if you are affected by it, that everyone stays away from you because you can see the infection spreading. But there could be some other form of assimilation, like through hypnosis. The creature is very sentient and grabs you and stares into your eyes, and something just goes into your head and you start to act like them until you slowly start to become them. And maybe people say, they're starting to act trollish, walking around half joking, and maybe some of their family members are like, they are starting to act a little trollish, aren't they? And that's also a possibility. Maybe there are, instead of crusaders trying to kill them, there are crusaders trying to cure these people before they fully change. Or there could be encampments or pits or something where these people are held before they truly start to change, or even hidden away in back closets or underneath homes and whatnot, because the family members don't want them taken and killed, slain by crusaders that are out to get them, or even use them for experiments or something. Yeah, so if a were-jaguar is killed by a werewolf, do the powers stack? I would have to say no, but that would be quite interesting. So I think someone even asked, like, if can a like a were can a werewolf become a lich or something? That was kind of a weird thing. And of course, you have the idea of, can vampires, suck the blood of something else? And of course, the answer to that is, well, they're fictional, so if you say yes, then the answer is yes, right? Um, yeah. Plura says, I never use that. It's such a simple idea. I tend to stick that on vampires and werewolves, and that's it. And of course, and zombies sometimes, I guess, it just doesn't come to mind. Exactly. I mean, there's what if some of the creatures that we think about in our world are not necessarily um, uh, other than vampires and werewolves transferring their capabilities, there could be other creatures like bringing up trolls or Naga or I don't know, sphinxes or something, dragons even, lizard folk, right? Well, who's to say that they don't spread due to whatever is inside of them to other people? There's even the idea of like, this is going to sound kind of sick, but there's the idea of feeding off of other creatures. Um, the 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 image of the image of Luke Skywalker milking the aquatic creature that was sitting on the planet and drinking the green milk, which some people are like, "There's no green milk in Star Wars." Well, there is now, and so we brought this up before in some other talks about hag's milk, right? The old hag that milks her hag's milk and gives it to people, and maybe they become like they become mutated or they become addicted to it or they gain some kind of benefit from it, not knowing that there's a terrible price to be paid on the other end of it. um, Scott Post says worshiping evil sea god turns towns of people into Koatoa stolen. Yeah, exactly. um, Oh man. Rickard says, shameless plug. In one 5e setting I was making for a campaign, I wanted to keep down the number of races, but still let the players get the mechanical benefits of all the races. To get around this, I turned the common races into humans that had been given the mark of a god when they were born. So halflings became humans with the mark of the goddess of luck. And and again, I remember, yeah, Pelora says, yeah, I don't like having, 300, 438.2 races is elegant. Exactly. I remember someone once said, was trying to make up um, Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones. As you know, he is played by an actor who has dwarfism. I don't know what's the correct term. I don't mean any disrespect, but I don't know what the correct term is, right? And someone said, well, uh, people were trying to make up the stats for the Game of Thrones characters, which we all like to do. And someone put him down as halfling in the dwarfism. Yes, and the someone responded that, well, he's not a halfling, he's just a short human. And the response was, well, what's the difference, right? And who's to say that in your world that the majority of the races, like you mentioned, Rickard, that they're just not marked by the gods, that this isn't just a genetic affliction, that we don't in our own world, who is to say that the so-called gorgeous people, the perfectly chiseled people in our world aren't elven-like, that they don't have to be elves, they are just elven-like, that the people who have dwarfism aren't just halflings or dwarves in our world, or who I know some of the races are small, some are medium-sized. But if you wipe away, we're talking about reskinning, right? Who's to say that all the humans don't just look human? They just have the capabilities of that race. So, uh, and maybe they have a genetic trait that makes them seem like that race. So maybe there is a hair color or eye color or skin tone or combination of those things that makes someone have elven traits, or that makes someone have dwarven traits. Like maybe in your world, um, the I'm just coming like the closer you get to albinism, pale skin, pink eyes, pure white hair, maybe those people are more elven-like, whereas the dwarves are more darker skin, black hair, um, you know, Africanized or whatnot in your world, and so you could relate to different races, to different parts of your world. Although we tend not to want to do that, because then you start to do things like stereotyping. But if you want to keep away from the 438.2 different races, you could do something like that as well. Especially if you in your world you don't want, say, drow elves or dragonborn, but you want to keep the option open. Who's to say that they just aren't humans that have those capabilities? Which would be kind of weird for, do these humans breathe out, have a breath weapon? Well, you could change it from breath weapon to something else. Um, you know, touched by the dragon lords or whatnot, and they have a little bit of like scaly skin, like psoriasis or something on their elbows, and they just happen to be able to either breathe this energy out or summon it in their hand or something like that. Um, yeah, Prue says there's a huge variation in humans even in our world, so why not? It's not that far fetched. The I think the problem with I think our issue with making as many elven and dwarven and gnomish variations as humans is that it gets out of hand. Um, yeah. Ricker says, as for Tyrion, if he's obviously a tiefling, +2 charisma and +1 intelligence, and be called a demon, too perfect not to use. Exactly, right? Who's to say that he isn't, right? I mean, if the only people you have to sell that to are the people at your table, right? Yeah, and Prue says, and I'm not even talking about race. Exactly. Well, I think we all know that race is actually not a real thing. Be, it's it, we're not going to go into that, but yeah, race isn't actually a real thing in terms of our differences and such. Which here's another thing: what if in your world the origins of these things come about due to where they live? Um, it's often been cited that in some places that drow elves have come about because they live. Yeah, yeah. Drow elves come about because they live in the Underdark. So in your world, coastal regions, oceans. Yeah, yeah. We could go down that dark path, but yeah, there. Some people get triggered by it by even just bringing it up, but yeah, it is true that we actually aren't different races. We're the same species with different with it's like dogs, right? We're the same species. We just have different tones to us. So we're actually all the same. We don't we're not dwarves and elves on Earth. But there is the idea that the people who live in the mountains become a certain way, which in our world is actually a truism in the sense that yeah, we're just different breeds, right? um, yeah, Rickard says that makes no sense given how much melanin drow seem to produce. Yeah, yeah. There's no scientific reason for subterranean things to have darker skin. You would think they would head towards albinism, um, with a paler skin, and probably head towards being blind or poor vision or restricted to only being able to see in the dark, blinded by sunlight, which was actually an older thing for drow elves as well. The and maybe other higher senses, sense of smell, tremor sense, sun sensitivity. Yeah. But Ricker says, yeah, lets us protect us from the sun, given sun sensitivity and live in the perpetual dark place. Yeah. What did something happen in the stream? Please tell me the stream's not acting up. Maybe it is. All right. So maybe in the world, for example, good. The people that live in the jungles of your world, mountains, the subterranean realm, coastal areas, on the deep seas, deserts, or whatnot. Maybe they start to change as well. So that could also be there. Could also be origins in that sense. Often we've heard of elves being the transformative race, where there's a million and one elven variations, and so you have yourself like moon elves and desert elves or sun elves or something like that, and so it's a possibility an evolutionary effect happens to the people in your world, changing them into something else. Yeah, Prue says it's a fantasy world. Who says it's melanin that makes their skin dark in the case of the drow? Of course, it could be. It could be leaking over elements from the Shadowfell or whatnot. Being down in the subterranean realm, maybe access to the Shadow realm, the Earth elemental, and fire elemental realms are very pronounced. So it affects those creatures that are something like that. Changing them into something elf. Absolutely. Uh, oh boy. Yep. Exactly. I need to have myself some drum snares or something. So exactly. Now, still going along the idea of origins, uh, we have ourselves the exactly the there's the possible origin that you it is the failed result of achieving something else. So, for example, um, someone is trying to climb to the highest peaks, or travel to the farthest reaches, or dive down into the deep oceans, or study magic, or give themselves over to one of the gods or something. And these could be individuals that have failed or given up or rejected a particular lifestyle. And so um, by going down the path, let's take wizards for example. So they want to study the arcane arts, but maybe people are afraid of them because other creatures like Rakshasa or any of the fiends or Oni, the ogre magi from when I remember what they were, but the Nagas and Sphinxes and such, maybe they are the failed wizards who have not mastered their craft or looked into the heart of knowledge and been changed by it. Excuse me. And so it could be a transformative effect simply by hubris, or um the population's being told not to investigate things because they know not what powers they contend with. It could also be a blessing as well. Rickard says they're actually please don't ban me. Nope. Yeah, all right. Rickard says they're actually plants, and it's a super concentrated chlorophyll to gain some energy despite the super low light conditions. And Scott says you could also say evolution just took a different path. Low light evolved, so being blind and glowing white makes you food in that world. You could. I mean, well, first of all, going back to last week about mystery, uh, maybe it just is. Right? Maybe there's no reason why, that it just is. Now, again, we can say, well, the reason we are brilliant enough to poke holes in many things. I often think of it like an equation with the equal sign in the middle. It's you got drow on one end, and then you have origins, reasonings on the other end. Do you disprove why drow are the way they are, or do you go, okay, they exist, therefore, and then come up with the reasons why? Yeah, we can say there's no reason for them to exist, but since they do, then I think it behooves us to go, well, if we want them in our world the way they are, why is it that they are that way? Yeah, Pelor says the reason is I'm the GM, my word is law. Throws pencil. Yeah, exactly. Dead Man says in Warhammer 40K the orcs are fungus creatures. I didn't know that. I I did not know that. Um, the uh, well, sorry, I was reading the chat. Having an origin like that, like orcs being fungus creatures or something, is that I believe even in within the Ring of Fire, I believe their orcs have a plant-like origin as well, if I'm not mistaken, or is it the trolls? I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, having a different biological origin is another thing as well. Whether the origin is feline, there's a feline origin, a plant origin, a mineralized origin. For example, in uh, in the world in Absolute Tabletop, um, Matt Click's world Aeronoth, his dwarves when they die they turn to stone. I believe it's the whole Arbitron world. Anyway, there's the idea that dwarves who are of the earth turn to stone, or elves who are of the sky, when they die they fade into mist or something. That's also another thing. Oh yeah, Rickard says from another biological kingdom, swap animals for plants, plants from animals, mammals to insects. Yeah. Ooh, Pelura says it's orcs. They have little tendrils in their fingers to absorb moisture. Yeah, from within the ring of fire. That's right, because they consume, they receive nutrients like a plant does. So they don't necessarily need to eat. They can just place their fingers into the earth and receive their nutrients through the earth and such, which I think is a very cool and to me quite a cool and visual thing that I would love for players to engage in, where they dip their feet into a cool, clear spring. They're like, "What are you doing?" And like, I'm drinking. What do you think I'm doing? There's the idea in within the Ring of Fire. I don't bring this up again, but the Vygish have a iron and fire origin to them, and they are unable to drink any fluids because it paralyzes them and drowns them. So they don't drink anything. They don't swim, and they actually wash themselves using the coals from a fire. So that's Carol D. Hi, hey Carol, what's going on there? Thank you very much for stopping by. Yeah, love to have you here. Embraced. Yeah. Rickard says, uh, we'll go back to number 5 too, but Rickard says number 6, you're imagining things. The creature actually exists because of the spirit energy, dreams, or imagination of another race. That is the heck. There is a book series by C.S. Friedman, the Coldfire trilogy, and the creatures in that world exist. The magic of that world is called the Fae, and they exist because of the subconscious of the people that landed there as colonists. And one person creates the fear, they start to become real. Other people fear the thing that looks real, and it becomes even more real. So our own fears start to compound on these things, and they become real creatures in the world. um, Oh, Prue says maybe drow are like flamingos. They're only darker than the other elves because of their diet. When they go above ground for a long period of time, their diet changes and they turn lighter. Ooh, ooh. Maybe that's it. That's uh, that's another possibility in your world, that the races and the creatures in your world are only victims of their victims. I guess you could call them victims. They're only subjects due to their environment, right? So the things they eat, the place they live, they change. So literally, maybe a player characters can actually change. Yeah, it's all about the mushrooms. um, it's possible that they change races based on where they're at. So now it may not be immediate. A drow elf comes out of the dark and just yawns like, I'm a high elf now, thanks. That might not be the real case, right? It may take hours, days, weeks, months for the change to come through, which there might be a form of, I hate to make this analogy, but it's the best one I can think of. There may be an underground railroad of sorts, so that propaganda is being spread. Yeah, Prue says would take weeks or months, maybe even years. Maybe there's propaganda spread by anything from political individuals to religious orders or factions to maybe just fairy tales, that each plate person is not supposed to go into this other place or you'll be corrupted. Come to find out that really it's just by diet and location. And if the orcs, if the humans embrace the orcs would actually change back to, or change into, the humans that they are about. Um yeah, Rickard says not a different race at all. Maybe orcs, ogres, and giants might be the same race, but environment, age, and diet is what keep them one or the other. Maybe maybe the we've imagine like giant sized tomatoes and bananas and I don't know, giant cows or something. Goliaths probably in that group, maybe because of the diet they're eating. Like they're eating dire versions of the animals that we think of. So maybe a dire chicken is like 7 feet tall and sure tastes good, but the more you eat it, the bigger you get. and and maybe some of the parents are like, listen, I don't mind you having that diet, but you're like 7 feet tall now, and I would really like you not to keep eating that chicken. Like, but it tastes so good. um so yes, maybe there are no different races at all. Maybe it is the idea that there are yep. So the dire creatures have growth hormones of some weird sort. Yep, absolutely. Maybe they're milking that dire cow. Probably takes three people to stand on each other's shoulders to milk that dire cow, because it's like 12 feet at the shoulder or taller. Carol says, "Is that what happened to my grandchildren? Must be those dire hormones in the food." Rickard says, "What orc is evolving? Congratulations, your orc evolved into an ogre." There's again, another origin could be simple evolution. So your lizard-like kobolds, if they live long enough, could evolve into troglodytes or lizardmen, who, if they live long enough, could evolve into dragonborn, who, if they live long enough, could evolve into wyverns or drakes or serpents, who then, if they live long enough, could transform into dragons. Right? Wow. Wow. What fantasy world foods are you feeding them? Oh man. Yeah. um, so again, we could, if you want to, yeah, Pokemon evolution, I presume, not actual yes, yes, yeah, fantasy evolution. If they're, I mean, if you want to bastardize the word evolution, yeah. um, there is the idea that, if you want to simplify the origins of the things in your world, so maybe like we talked about orcs, ogres, giants, Goliaths, maybe they are related, and maybe there's a faction that's like, if you go down this path, one day you too will become a cloud giant. And they're like, I really want to become one. And maybe someone is on a mission to become, the Goliaths are on a mission to become or the halfling is on a mission to become, to grow taller, to become human, and then a Goliath, and then an ogre, and then a hill giant, and so on and so forth, right? Um, Prue says maybe those hormones make it not possible to travel to where those hormones are not available. The race can't support their own weight, and that's why they've not taken over the plane. Ooh, that's a good one. um, yeah, Carol says the lesser creatures are actually larval forms of the greater ones. And what Prue's talking about is maybe somehow, like talking about, say, the giant folk, um, they physically can't get to these other places, so they don't take over. They don't take over the world. Much how we think of dragons as being so arcane and needing to eat so much food, and their magic is so powerful that only so many of them can exist at a particular time and place. So they have to hibernate for long periods of time to live off of the magic in the realms around them. So that is a possibility as well, where whatever it is that supports their life is only available in certain areas. So maybe there's a possibility by taking away a food source, those fire giants might actually decrease in size over time. Maybe shrinking down to, what are those creatures called? Azir, the ones with the flaming heads or something. Maybe they get smaller and smaller. Bruce says, so traveling has a time limit for the huger races. I could see that. I could see them not being able to travel much further out of their like ecological zones, either by food, or there could be like a ley line effect or some kind of weave effect or something. Rickard says, Lost Heritage, it's number 8. Lost Heritage, lizard men are dragonborn who are cut from arcane energies to the point that they lost themselves. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, the idea that dragonborn are maybe like a middle form between one and the other is a possibility as well. Wait, let me say goodbye. All right, baby. Love. Yes. Yeah. All right, baby. Love you. Yeah. Pelora says, go read the Mistborn trilogy. Some cool ogre things in there, or just Google Kolos. And Prue says, or the other way, Dragonborn are lizard folk who have lost themselves because of the arcane. I suspect there could be old fights over this. Oh, yeah. Again, mixing in a little bit of that mystery, right? Which came first, the Dragonborn or the lizard men? You know, we don't know which one, right? Why the Dragonborn crossed the road to become the lizard man. I have not read the Mistborn trilogy. But I've listened to a lot of Brandon Sanderson's lectures, so maybe I'm all right. We've come to the hour mark, and we're definitely going to talk much more about this all week, because we like to take these things and break them apart a little bit and get a little bit nerdy, get a little bit geeky with our portrayals of them. Yeah, the idea of reskinning. We're going to talk about reskinning magic, reskinning class features, reskinning things in the world, reskinning mechanics as well, all that kind of stuff. Even going back to what Rickard was talking about, someone wanted to wear Jaguar and doing those kind of things. So yeah, we're going to talk about all of that. Reskinning. Well, you shouldn't have skinned the cat in the first place to have to reskin it. But I suppose if you are reskinning a cat that was skinned not by you, I guess that's all right. You can give him a coat. But anyway, guys, thank you very much. Just as a reminder, Rickers had to throw that in. Symbiosis. Dwarves are actually 2 entities. A dull creature that is controlled by the fungal creature that is the dwarf's beard. Oh man, symbiosis, fungal, symbiosis versus parasitic origins. That this is very much an eclipse phase kind of thing, where literally everyone with a cortical stack is literally just a rider inside of a biological or mechanical body. Rickard says that's why they don't want to cut their beard, as that would lower their intelligence. Yeah. But so anyway, guys, we've hit the hour mark. I want to thank all of you for joining me. We're going to go on later this week, Discord Tuesday, World Building Wednesday, my favorite Third Pillar Thursday and all that kind of stuff. So thank you very much. Everyone have a great day. I'll see you later.